Hey there! Today we're going to talk about reading books to infants and toddlers. And here is a good question. You know, we all know that we are supposed to read to our kids and we want to start this at a very early age, but at what age do you really need to start? I mean, does a babe in arms really need you to read books to them? Would it actually do any good? And if so, how do you go about doing that? How do you read to a newborn baby that you're holding in your arms? You know, early literacy actually begins in the very first year of life, and we can introduce books to our babies, and eventually they will get to where they are really loving books, and they bring books to you, and they want you to read books to them because they learn to enjoy books. And so when you read or show your tiny baby a book, and then you continue to do so throughout the first several years of life, you are planting a seed inside of them that makes them associate reading and books and all of those kinds of things with very positive feelings because they've really enjoyed this time with you. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to show you some books that are good for our littlest children, the infants and toddlers that we have, and just kind of talk about what makes a good book for this age group and what doesn't, okay? First of all, you know, babies love to look at faces. They love to look at your face. They love to gaze into your eyes, and that's how they learn about you. That's how you guys connect, as you do all of this looking at each other. And babies just love faces. And so if you notice, many infant books and toys have images of faces on them. And so that's the first thing I'm going to tell you about books for babies, is that try to find some that have nice, big, real images of babies' faces. And so this series of books, there's a whole bunch of these different types of books. This is the one I found at the library. But anyways, if you can see, this book is just full of different images of young children and really focusing in on their faces. And so this is a really great book for little ones. They would love to stare at this. I had a book of baby faces that I was trying to find to show you guys, but I couldn't find it. But we just tore it to bits as our kids were growing up, and we had our foster kids, but it was black and white, and each page was just a face, and it was a really neat really neat book of faces, and all of our kids really loved that one. Another thing to think about as you are choosing books is to find books that are familiar. You know, I know your baby doesn't know this much, but like, we live near the beach. And so this was a favorite around our house at the shore, because eventually, as our kids got to go to the beach and play there, these were familiar images to them, the sand and the bucket and all of those kinds of things. And so things where they can make a connection, that's a really great book for you to have around your house. Here's a really neat book. This one, Peekaboo Morning. This is a really cool book because it is, first of all, it has beautiful artwork in it. And as you can see, this is just a peekaboo game book. And this little baby sees mommy and daddy and dog. Oh, myself. Dog is next. Anyways, all of the things that would be familiar to a child, family, pets, mirrors, all of those kinds of things, that is what is included in this beautiful little book. Now, another thing to consider as you're looking at books for really little ones is that, as you notice, all of the books I've shown you so far are cardboard books. And so these are great, of course, because the pages won't tear. The baby can handle them themselves, and you don't have to worry too much about it. And you also might want to look for books that are made out of fabrics or plastics, things that you can wipe down and sanitize real easily. If you have more than one kid in your house that's going to be chewing on the books, that's just one thing to consider, because infants and toddlers, particularly infants, well, toddlers too, are in the oral stage of development. They learn about things by putting it in their mouth, and so they're going to put books in their mouths, and so just keep that in mind as you are picking them out. Another thing to consider is a book that will invite engagement or a playful interaction between you and your baby. And so this is a really neat one. It's called 10 Tiny Tickles. And this book is it's playful. And as you read the text, of course you can see there's a great images and colors here, but in the story of this book is that they are going to tickle. And so every page, they're going to tickle on a different part of the body. So you can only imagine how fun that would be to read this to your baby and do all the tickling as you're reading it. And that will be, of course, really fun for both of you. So a book that encourages engagement and encourages play is a really great book. Here's another book that encourages engagement as you read, and this one is an oldie but goodie from our house. But this is a book that has hidden pictures, and so you are familiar with these, and I know that you know that children love these kind of flat books. And so this is one where we are looking for the kitten on every page, and so this is a great one because the baby themselves can pull that up. Now, if you're reading this to a child and their little fingers are just too little and they can't get a hold of it, here's the secret. You just put your finger right there and then it kind of opens up and then they can do it themselves. They can open up the page. Here's another example of a big old flat book, and this is a really big one. So if your baby's tiny, this would be as big as they are, but this is a really neat book because it has lots and lots and lots of pictures. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned is that what happens when you read books is you are developing language. You are teaching your child new words, new ways to think about things. You're showing them an image and then you're telling them what it is. It's a really neat way to teach your child new words and new language. This is an example of highlights. Now, you may or may not remember highlights from when you were a kid. I certainly do. But this is something new that they have put out, and this is for infants and toddlers. And these little books are really neat because they're wipeable, and so we can use them with groups of children and just sanitize them afterwards. But these are really neat little books. You can actually get a subscription to this, and they will send them to you each month. And so this would be great for little bit older kid, like maybe a 18 months to 24 or 3-year-old, 2.5 to 3-year-olds. They would love this book. Here's an example of a book that has really beautiful, bright illustrations. Fire trucks and trucks are something that babies just seem to love, especially toddlers. And so they are paying attention to these things, and these are nice, simple images, nice, simple words in this book. However, this is a book that's just made out of paper. It's not cardboard, and so it will get torn. So when you're reading a book to a toddler, and it's a book like this, and they tear the page, here's what you do. You just say, uh-oh, we'll better go get the tape. Let's fix it. And you might even have, just a little box, a plastic bin that has all the book repair stuff in it, and every time a book gets torn, you just take it to the book hospital and you fix the book. It's not a big deal. If you make a big deal about it, then it just becomes more than it needs to be. I guess that's about all I'm going to show you today. Where to get books. I got a lot of these books at the library just to show you guys. And so you too can use your library, and that way you can have a steady flow of different books. Of course, anytime anybody asks you what would you like for your baby, just tell them you're building your children's library, and if you would like, you could give them a list of books that you would like to have for that. You want to keep your books in a place where you can get to them easily, and if you can find some of those little bitty chunky books and stick those in your diaper bag or your tote and just keep them around you, those are great to pull out in times when you're having to wait a little bit and your baby's getting impatient. You can just pull those out and read them. Another thing is that as you're holding your baby or your toddler or even your older kid and you're reading a book, it might be that they lose interest in it before you're to the end of the book. No problem. Just put it down and pick it up later. Don't make it a big deal. You want this to be a very pleasant experience. When they're done, you're done. It's simple as that. You are building a foundation as you read these books to children. You're building a foundation for relationship, for learning, for love of words and reading. That's a really good thing that we need to instill in our children, because when you can read, you can just do so many things in life. And so we want to set them up for success, and reading to your children is a great way to do that.